Nephi and his brothers built the ship that God instructs them to build. And it came to pass that his brothers did worship the Lord and did go out and help Nephi build the boat out of wood in a new and an unusual way. And the Lord instructed them now and then how to carve or work with the wood to shape it. And Nephi tells us that he did not construct the ship using the regular methods that men use or in the manner that men usually do. And so it was unusual looking because it had been made according to the instruction of God. And Nephi often went and prayed on the mountain, and the Lord showed him many great things. And after Nephi had finished building the ship the way that God told him to, Nephi's brethren saw that it was good and the workmanship was very detailed and fine, and they prayed and they thanked God. Ponder this. When Nephi was told that God would help him build a ship, he didn't wait for God to show him exactly how to do it, how to create the final product in one shot. He went step by step according to what the Spirit told him to do. This is often the way that revelation works. It's always line upon line, bit by bit. And then the Lord spoke to Lehi and told him that they should go down to the ship, pack up all their things, pack up enough fruit, meat, honey, and provisions, load everything and everyone onto the ship. So Lehi, at this point, after they'd moved into the wilderness, he had two more sons after Nephi and Sam, and they were Jacob and Joseph. And after they'd all gone down into the ship, they took the ship out of the sea, and the winds blew them towards the promised land. And after being blown for many days around by the wind, Nephi's brothers and the sons of Ishmael and their wives began to enjoy themselves, to dance, to sing, to generally be rude and loud in their speech. They stopped thanking God for delivering them, for guiding them, and focused instead on their pleasure at the moment. Nephi began to get worried that God would be angry and punish them, and that they would be drowned in the sea. And so he spoke to them, telling them to be more humble, to pray, to remember to thank God for taking them through this journey. This made the brothers very angry, and Laban and Lemuel tied Nephi up with ropes and were harsh to him. When they had done this, the Lord decided to punish them because of what they did, and because of this, the compass of the Lehi stopped working. And the others, Laban, Lemuel, and the sons of Ishmael, didn't know how to direct the ship, to the extent that there was a huge storm on the sea that blew their ship backwards for 3 days. They couldn't control it. And until they began to be afraid that they would all drown in the sea. But even with that, they didn't untie Nephi. And then on the 4th day, the storm got even worse, and it looked like the boat would sink for sure. And finally, Nephi's brothers began to see that God was angry with them for what they had done. And if they didn't repent and change their ways, he would see that they died. And then they came and untied Nephi, who was in great pain from the bindings. And Nephi, even though he had pain, the first thing he did was to thank God for his release continuously and not make any complaints about his suffering, about having suffered for so many days, about the pain he was undergoing right then. He didn't say anything. All he did was focus on thanking God. And then Lehi said many things to Laban and Lemuel and also to the sons of Ishmael about the way that they were behaving. But the brothers had threatened and frightened their parents, who were old and tired. And Lehi and Sariah were so unwell that they had taken to their beds. And because of their sorrow and their unhappiness about the wickedness of their sons, they almost died. And Jacob and Joseph were also very upset because they were young children and they weren't able to be looked after by Sariah, who was sick herself. So was Nephi's wife and children. And even with all this, Nephi's brothers were not bothered enough to let him loose. It was only the power of God that saved Nephi by threatening the others with destruction. And it was only when they thought that they themselves would die that they released Nephi. And after the brothers had loosened Nephi, he took the compass and it began to work again. And after Nephi had prayed to God, the wind stopped, the sea calmed, and the storm went away. And then Nephi guided the ship towards the promised land, led by the needles of the Lehi. And after sailing for many days, they reached the promised land, and they went ashore and they set up their tents. And then they tilled the earth, they planted their seeds, and eventually those plants grew up and gave them great harvests. And as they traveled in the promised land, they found that there were many animals and beasts in the forest, the cow and the ox, the donkey and the horse, and so on, that could be used by men